You ever stare at an old photo and feel like it's staring back at you? Yeah, that smile, that innocent pose, that frozen moment in time. But what if I told you it's not frozen at all? They enhanced your old photo, sharpened the blur, brightened the shadows, pulled details out of the darkness you didn't even know were there. And they found something. Not a ghost. Not a stranger you. The version of you that existed before the masks, before the lies, before the world taught you how to pretend. Isn't it funny? We edit pictures to look better. But sometimes, when you enhance them enough, they expose what you've been hiding. That old photo wasn't just paper. It was evidence. Evidence of your dreams before fear whispered, "Be realistic." Evidence of your courage before failure said, "Sit down." Evidence of your authenticity before society handed you a script. They enhanced your old photo and found something powerful. Potential you abandoned. Confidence you buried. Fire you thought had died. But here's the punchline. Nothing was lost. It was just out of focus. Tonight, we're going to enhance more than a photograph. We're going to enhance your memory, your identity, your truth. Because sometimes the scariest thing hiding in the shadows is who you were always meant to become. You think a picture is just a picture, don't you? Just paper. Just pixels. Just a frozen second that doesn't breathe, doesn't move, doesn't speak. That's what makes it comfortable. That's what makes it safe. But the moment someone enhances it, sharpens the blur, lifts the shadows, deepens the contrast, you start seeing things you weren't supposed to notice. Tiny details hiding in plain sight. A flicker in your eyes, a tension in your smile, a story in the background you completely ignored. See, the hidden truth in the frame was never trying to disappear. It was waiting. Waiting for clarity. Waiting for courage. Waiting for someone bold enough to zoom in instead of scroll past. When they enhanced your old photo, they didn't just improve quality. They revealed intention. That kid in the picture. The one standing a little too straight, smiling a little too big. That wasn't just innocence. That was belief. Belief without limits. Belief before rejection had a voice. Belief before comparison became a habit. Look closer. There's hunger in those eyes. Curiosity. A spark that hadn't yet been negotiated away. You hadn't learned to shrink yourself yet. You hadn't mastered the art of fitting in. You were loud in your dreams. Wild in your imagination. Reckless in your hope. But time teaches editing. You edited your laugh to be quieter. You edited your ambition to be realistic. You edited your personality to be acceptable. And slowly, the image of who you were started to blur. That's the trick, isn't it? Life doesn't erase you overnight. It lowers the resolution. It softens the edges of your confidence. It adds noise to your clarity. It dims the brightness of your passion until you mistake dullness for maturity. So when someone enhances that old photo, it feels uncomfortable. Because suddenly you can see what you traded. You can see the posture before pressure bent it. You can see the eyes before doubt moved in. You can see the version of you that didn't ask for permission to exist. And here's the unsettling part. Nothing in that frame is fake. Cameras don't capture who you pretend to be. They capture who you were in that moment. Raw. Unfiltered. Untamed. The hidden truth isn't about what's behind you in the background. It's about what's within you in the foreground. There's courage there. There's originality there. There's fearlessness there. And the reason it feels so intense when you look at it now is because you recognize it. You remember it, even if you buried it. Enhancement doesn't create something new. It exposes what was always present. The truth was never gone. It was just waiting for the light to hit it at the right angle. That frame is proof. Proof that before the world told you who to be, you already knew. Proof that before failure tried to define you, you defined yourself. Proof that somewhere under the layers of adaptation and survival, the original image still exists. Sharp, clear, powerful. And the most dangerous thing about seeing the hidden truth in the frame is realizing you can't unsee it. You weren't born wearing a mask. No one is. You came into this world loud, honest, expressive. If you were happy, you laughed without restraint. If you were angry, you showed it. If you were curious, you asked. There was no filter, no strategy, no performance. Just you, raw and unedited. Then something changed. Maybe it was the first time they laughed at your idea. Maybe it was the moment someone said, "That's not realistic." Maybe it was the subtle look of disappointment when you didn't meet an expectation you never agreed to. That's when the mask was introduced, not as a costume, but as protection. At first, it felt smart, necessary. You learned to smile even when you felt small. You learned to nod even when you disagreed. You learned to dim your intensity so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. The mask didn't feel fake. It felt strategic. But here's the dangerous part where something long enough, and you forget it's not your skin. You started adjusting your personality depending on the room. Different tone for different people. Different dreams for different audiences. Around some, you were ambitious. Around others, you were modest. In one space, you were bold. In another, invisible. You mastered adaptation so well that even you couldn't tell where the performance ended and the real you began. And the world rewarded you for it. They called you mature. They called you responsible. They called you easy to work with. But deep down, something felt off, exhausting. Because performing is tiring. Calculating reactions is draining. Smiling on cue is heavy work. The mask may protect you from rejection, but it also protects the world from your truth. You stopped saying what you really wanted. You stopped chasing what really excited you. You stopped expressing what really hurt you. All to maintain approval. All to avoid conflict. All to stay accepted. The mask wasn't evil. It was survival. But survival isn't the same as living. Every time you ignored your instincts to fit in, the mask tightened. Every time you swallowed your opinion to keep peace, it thickened. Every time you chose comfort over authenticity, it became harder to remove. And then one day, you look in the mirror and realize something terrifying. You don't know which parts are real anymore. Are these goals yours? Is this personality natural? Is this life chosen or constructed? The mask you learned to wear was built layer by layer. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of standing out, each layer shaped carefully until it felt safe, predictable, controlled. But safety has a cost. When you hide your edge, you lose your impact. When you mute your voice, you lose your power. When you bury your difference, you lose your identity. The tragedy isn't that you changed. Growth is natural. Evolution is powerful. The tragedy is believing you had to become smaller to survive. Somewhere underneath that carefully crafted persona is the unfiltered version of you. The one who didn't ask for permission to shine. The one who didn't rehearse conversations in their head. The one who didn't need validation to feel worthy. And the uncomfortable truth, the world may have adjusted to your mask, but your soul never did. Memories are strange things. You think they fade. You think they weaken. You think time politely erases them like chalk on a board. But they don't disappear. They sink. They settle into the quiet corners of your mind, waiting for a trigger, a smell, a song, a photograph, to pull them back into the light. You can lie to people. You can even lie to yourself. But your memories, they keep receipts. There was a time when you were certain about who you wanted to be. Not kind of sure. Not, let's see how it goes. Certain. You felt it in your chest like electricity. Maybe you wanted to build something, create something, lead something, become something bigger than your surroundings. That certainty wasn't random. It wasn't childish fantasy. It was instinct. Then life happened. Responsibilities grew teeth. Expectations grew louder, bills arrived. Opinions multiplied, and slowly that certainty started sounding unrealistic, impractical, naive. So you adjusted the dream, then you downsized it, then you locked it away. But here's the twist: even if you silence a dream, the memory of how it felt doesn't vanish. It lingers in moments when you're alone, in those quiet seconds before sleep, in the sudden wave of nostalgia when you remember how fearless you used to be. That ache you feel, that's not weakness. That's memory knocking. Memories don't lie about what once mattered to you. They don't rewrite the intensity of your passion. They don't exaggerate the excitement you felt when you imagined your future. If anything, they preserve it in its purest form, untouched by compromise. You might tell yourself you've moved on. You might say you're more realistic now, wiser, grounded. But when you see someone chasing what you abandoned, and something inside you tightens, that's memory speaking. When you hear a story that sounds like the life you once imagined and your heart beats faster, that's memory reminding you. It's not trying to shame you. It's trying to wake you. Because the person you were when that dream was born, that person wasn't foolish. They were honest. Honest about what excited them. Honest about what felt meaningful. Honest about what they were willing to fight for. And that honesty is still inside you. You can suppress it with logic. You can drown it in distractions. You can bury it under routine. But it resurfaces. Always. Memories don't lie about your potential either. They remember the risks you took before fear grew sophisticated. They remember the confidence you had before comparison poisoned it. They remember the energy you carried before exhaustion became normal. That version of you isn't fictional. It existed, it acted, it believed. So when you revisit those moments and feel a mix of pride and pain, understand why. Pride, because you know you were capable of boldness. Pain, because you know you settled for less than that boldness deserved. The past isn't calling you back to live in it. It's showing you evidence. Evidence that you've been powerful before. Evidence that clarity once came naturally. Evidence that courage wasn't always this complicated. Memory is not your enemy. It's your witness. You remember the fire. Don't pretend you don't. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't quiet. It was loud in your chest, restless in your thoughts, impossible to ignore. It made you impatient with average. It made you allergic to small thinking. It made you believe that ordinary was optional. That fire didn't ask for permission. It didn't wait for validation. It didn't calculate odds. It just burned. You used to wake up with ideas racing through your mind. You used to feel energy that didn't need caffeine. You used to look at obstacles and think, I'll find a way. There was something fierce about you. Something unpolished but powerful. Then life started throwing water. Failure cooled your confidence. Criticism dampened your excitement. Rejection poured doubt over your certainty. And slowly the flames lowered, not extinguished. Lowered. That's the part you misunderstand. You say, I lost my passion. You say, I'm not that driven anymore. You say, maybe I've just changed. But fire doesn't vanish without a trace. If it were gone, you wouldn't feel the frustration you feel now. You wouldn't feel restless in routines that feel safe but suffocating. You wouldn't feel irritated watching others take risks you secretly crave. That irritation. That's heat. The fire you thought was gone didn't die. It adapted. It went quiet because it wasn't being fed. Fire needs oxygen, challenge, growth, risk. Instead, you gave it security, predictability, comfort. Comfort doesn't ignite anything. It maintains, it stabilizes, it protects, but it doesn't spark. You convinced yourself stability was maturity, that playing safe was wisdom, that shrinking your ambitions was responsibility. And maybe at times it was necessary. Survival sometimes requires containment. But containment is not extinction. There are moments when you feel it surge back. When you hear a powerful idea and your heart pounds. When you imagine starting over and feel equal parts fear and excitement. When you think about what you could still become, and something inside you whispers, "It's not too late," that whisper, that's smoke rising. Fire leaves evidence. It leaves warmth even after the flames seem low. It leaves embers. Small glowing pieces waiting for a spark. You've been stepping over those embers for years, pretending they're ashes. But ashes don't glow. Ashes don't react when stirred. Embers do. Every time you feel dissatisfied with mediocrity, that's an ember. Every time you feel pulled toward growth, even when it's inconvenient, that's an ember. Every time you imagine more for your life and feel scared, because it actually feels possible, that's an ember. You didn't become less capable. You became more cautious. You didn't lose ambition. You buried it under practicality. You didn't lose power. You restrained it to avoid disappointment. The fire you thought was gone is still yours. It's still connected to your identity. It's still tied to the part of you that refuses to settle completely. You can ignore it. You can distract yourself from it. You can rationalize it away. But you can't deny the heat when you feel it. And if there's still heat, there's still flame waiting to rise. Enhancing the image isn't about nostalgia. It's about confrontation. When you sharpen a picture, you remove the comfort of blur. You take away the soft edges that allowed you to avoid detail. Suddenly, everything is clearer. The expression, the posture, the environment, the emotion. Clarity can be unsettling because it demands a response. You've been living in low resolution for a while now. Not because you're incapable of more, but because clarity requires responsibility. When things are blurry, you can blame confusion. You can say you're unsure. You can claim you're still figuring it out. But when the image sharpens, excuses fade. Enhancing the image of yourself means asking harder questions. What did you want before fear edited it out? What did you believe before disappointment rewrote the script? What felt natural before you started performing for approval? You don't enhance an image to change its identity. You enhance it to reveal its truth. The real you isn't missing. It's layered. Layered under habits built for survival. Layered under roles you learned to play. Layered under expectations you carried that were never yours to begin with. Reclaiming yourself isn't dramatic. It's deliberate. It's noticing when you're about to shrink and choosing not to. It's recognizing when you're performing and deciding to be honest instead. It's feeling fear and moving anyway because clarity matters more than comfort. When you enhance a photograph, you adjust brightness. In your life, brightness is awareness. Awareness of patterns. Awareness of compromises. Awareness of where you traded authenticity for acceptance. Then you adjust contrast. Contrast is boundaries. Knowing what aligns and what doesn't. Knowing who energizes you and who drains you. Knowing which environments sharpen you and which ones blur you. Then you sharpen the details. Details are actions. Small, consistent moves toward the version of you that felt powerful in that old frame. Not grand announcements. Not overnight transformations. Just aligned steps. Reclaiming yourself isn't about becoming someone new. It's about removing what never belonged. The doubt that was planted by someone else's insecurity. The limits created by someone else's fear. The identity shaped by someone else's expectations. You've outgrown versions of yourself before. You can outgrow this edited one too. There will be resistance. The mask will try to stay. Comfort will whisper that clarity is risky. Familiar routines will argue that change is unnecessary. But remember, blur feels safe because it hides flaws. Clarity feels dangerous because it exposes potential. and potential demands courage. Enhance the image. Look at it without flinching. See the ambition in your younger eyes. See the honesty in your expression. See the boldness that hadn't yet been negotiated down. That's not a stranger in the frame. That's evidence. Evidence that you were once unapologetic. Evidence that you were once fearless in ways you've forgotten. Evidence that the core of you, the sharp, bright, unfiltered core, still exists beneath the edits. Reclaiming yourself doesn't require permission. It requires decision.